Chapter 8. A Proper Christian Woman. Scene 1. Delilah's First Days. The day that Elijah walked onto the campus of Trinity Christian University, Delilah started Charity Christian High School for girls. Delilah loved and respected her brother. She was more proud of what he had done than anything she had done. She had grown up feeling a part of him. What was happening to him felt as if it were happening to her. When he pushed her away, ignored her, and spurned her, the hurt was deeply corrosive. So, she found an outlet for her pain, her sister's. Still, under all the pain and resentment he inflicted, she never stopped loving him and wanting him to love her. But she was the shadow he didn't want. A single kind word or even a look would restore her admiration. When Elijah left for Trinity, he hugged her and told her, "Make us proud." Delilah was ecstatic and remained so for days. She felt more connected to him and everything he represented, popularity, success, and the admiration of, well, everyone, at least as she saw it. Since Elijah's fame had preceded her, she thought she would be accorded a boost from his popularity. She would be walking in his large footprints. With those feelings pouring from her, she walked through the front doors of the school with posture erect and confidence high. All the missteps from the past would flee from the memories of her classmates. The petty grievances would be tossed to the side. Jealousies would be reasoned away. Years of grudges would dissolve. Cruelty would die a needed death. After all, they were in high school now. Students were more mature, and in a few years, they would be adults. It was the new start she needed. She did not have to worry that Elijah would avoid her, a fear she had always carried with her. She could pretend that, if he were there, he would have made her part of his world. It wasn't reality, but it was enough. She found her friends from middle school, and the chatter began in earnest. While most of them had seen each other at the church, this was a new territory that needed to be marked. The hierarchy of groups needed to be reestablished. That would take a few weeks. Some girls had blossomed, some had wilted, some had just shifted locations. For the most part, the ostracized remained alone, but a few had attained a level of beauty that could not be ignored. First, they garnered looks, then hellos followed, and then conversations. Beauty is its own reward. Still, nearly everyone wants to reward it. Even the jealousy was a kind of reward. Much of the cruelty, egregious behavior, and many faux pas are excused for the beautiful. Two of Delilah's friends, Cindy and Judy, were cute and petite. One, Yolanda, was almost beautiful. A prominent mole under her right ear became, ridiculously, a barrier. Ernestine was plain. Pauline was an occasional group member when she wasn't in the library. It was hard to tell if she was beautiful. She didn't try to be. She had thick glasses and only slightly tended to her hair. She had clothes that were too wrinkled and large, and she tended to hide behind other people. Delilah was not beautiful. Okay would describe her. Her nose was just a little too large, her eyes a little too far apart, and her chin slightly pushed back. She knew this and always wished it were untrue, and even hoped that one day she would wake up and all would be fixed. She knew it was a ridiculous wish, but every once in a while, she couldn't help waking up and looking in the mirror to see the miracle. She always wondered if her appearance was the reason Elijah avoided being seen with her when his classmates were around. However, Elijah basically didn't want to be seen with any of his siblings. In fact, he wanted no siblings. He wished the years of being doted on as the only child would never end. With each new birth, his embattled ego suffered. However small a threat, Delilah was just another drain on his self-conceit. His thin skin still made her a concern. She needed to be kept in her place. Delilah was unaware that Elijah considered her a threat. She was blind to his imperfections, even to the point that she would eventually and inevitably excuse his cruelty toward her. She needed to find something that might sway his regard for her. Starting in the summer before the 8th grade, she dedicated herself to developing her physique. She was highly successful, and it boosted her confidence. The girls who had not seen her in a while were astounded at her transformation. She received a flood of compliments and passing glances. She reveled in them. Several times a day at home, she looked at herself in a full-length mirror. She was pleased and imagined that Elijah would be more accepting. In the first of what would become her weekly letters to him, she proudly included a full-length photo. Scene 2. Friends needed. Trisha started asking about Elijah at the end of the first day of school, Monday. Hey Dee, how's Elijah doing? Fine. I should be getting a letter from him by Friday. Tell him I said hi. Okay. I don't think so. Trisha was well-liked, but insignificant. She was a beautiful, light-headed teenager with a sprightly personality, which Delilah had considered nearly sickening. She could brighten a room with friendly, meaningless chatter and never talk about anything substantial. She alienated no one. In the past, Delilah had barely tolerated her. Several of Delilah's friends heard Trisha's nickname for Delilah. So, during the week, Delilah became Dee. Even given the source, it meant a lot to Delilah to be seen as a person worthy of nickname. On the third Wednesday of school, Trisha bumped into Delilah in the hall. Got his letter yet? It's on the way. On Thursday, Trisha sat next to Delilah at lunch. As her bottom touched the bench, she asked, "Has it arrived?" "What?" "The letter from your brother." "Why are you so concerned about a letter from my brother?" "Just curious. Just being friendly. He's still very popular around here. I'm sure a lot of people would like to know how he's doing." Sharply, Delilah replied, "Okay, I'll let you know, and you can do what you do best, spread rumors." "Geez, Dee, you don't have to bite my head off." Rushing into Delilah's thoughts came the plaudits her brother had received from his wealth of friends. She would have to alter her abrasive personality if she was to have more friends. "Sorry, Trish. I'm just not feeling well today." Trisha quickly raised a smile. "Okay, see you tomorrow." Trisha brightly tinkled and glided away happy. I shouldn't avoid her. It's impossible anyway. She'll always find me. Besides, I need friends, especially ones who are desperate to be mine. Delilah subdued her desire to avoid Trisha. Delilah had planned to avoid her, wait for Trisha to find a seat, and sit away from her, or sit with her own friends and nudge Trisha away. Instead, Delilah walked into lunch with Trisha, and they sat with Delilah's entourage. Halfway through lunch, the inevitable question left Trisha's voluptuous lips, her most prominent feature. "Dee, have you received a letter from your brother yet?" Delilah quieted as shuddered, but kindly responded, "No, I won't know until I get home. Nobody's mail arrives that early, idiot. Could you give you a call? Could you? I'll talk to you on Monday at lunch. Could you bring the letter with you?" A coarse frown settled on her brow. "No, no one else is going to read it. It's personal. People shouldn't read other people's mail." "Of course not. I'm sorry. I'm just excited to hear how he's doing and what college is like. Since he was an exceptional student, it would be nice to know what college is like." "I understand. I'll tell you what I can, but not any of the personal stuff." "By the way, are you going to the game tonight?" "Of course. I'll see you there." "Sure." Cindy nudged Delilah. "Dee, Trisha has really latched onto you. Actually, I think she's trying to latch onto my brother through me." "Really? That's what it looks like. A high school student with a college student. That is a wide social chasm to cross." "Yeah, Grand Canyon. But she is beautiful and happy as a lark, and has the brain the size of one." They chuckled. The voice in Delilah's head spoke, "Be nice." "But she's very nice. A good person. A good friend." "Yeah, I guess so," Cindy replied dubiously. As if a necessity, Delilah countered Cindy's doubt with a beaming. "See you at the game?" "Never miss one." "Neither do I." "That's because your brother was a star." "Yup," Delilah said proudly. Scene 3. Comments overheard. It was Friday. It was game night. It was the night young men and women would be in the same area. At school, not just at church where they could be closely monitored. The school staff knew they could not herd that many students, so they just dealt with the extreme disturbances of which there were always very few, and the too close proximity of males and females of which there were more than could be policed, especially in the shadowy areas under the bleachers. Delilah and her entourage met near the women's bathroom, trying not to look like ninth graders. They weren't succeeding. "Have you seen who came?" Cindy bursted out. "Who?" Judy asked, expecting that Cindy already knew. "I'm asking you if you have seen any, you know." "Hot boys," Yolanda responded. "They're not boys anymore," Ernestine corrected. "That's yet to be determined," Delilah interjected. "Let's go check out the future husbands," Cindy said. "They're boys and not men, and they won't be ready to support a wife for 5 or 10 years, Pauline informed the anxious crew. Disappointed, Cindy countered they might. Delilah swung her head towards Cindy. You already have someone in mind, don't you? No. A chorus of disbelief targeted her. Well, maybe. Okay, yes. Delilah asked, who is it? Cindy shyly said, Ronnie. Ronnie Suffield. Major replies were rolling by cute and very cute. Oh, it's true love. I can see them now. A fleet of children trailing behind them hand in hand, walking proudly to church, and Cindy smiling happily with her arm laying across twins on the way, Judy said. That was followed by chuckles and teasing. Cindy said, oh, phooey on all of you. Then she joined in the laughter. Ernestine, leading the group to the stands, turned to them and stated, everyone look for Ronnie in the stands. They walked the length of the stands. No Ronnie. Sorry, Cindy, Delilah said, faking sympathy. The group turned and headed back, looking for a group of seats together. As they climbed the stands, the team ran onto the field. The girls turned and joined the cheers. Oh, look, Cindy shouted as she pointed to the players. There's Ronnie. Didn't you know he was on the team? No, he's just a freshman. He didn't tell you? Well, no. You haven't talked to him, have you? Yes, I've talked to him. Has he talked to you? Of course. Has he talked to you before you talked to him? Has he ever started a conversation with you? Like, walked up to you and started talking? Well, no. Leave her alone. It's her business, not ours, Tricia said. Delilah looked at Tricia with a hint of admiration. Yeah, leave her alone, Delilah said harshly. The leader had spoken. The teasing stopped. At halftime, about a third of the stands emptied, gathered in larger groups in the stands. In smaller groups, they went under the stands for refreshments. The girls stayed together and went under the stands. For boys walked past them, looking intently. New crop of girls, a few mighty fine ones, and a couple that should be in a kennel. Wasn't one of them Elijah's sister? I think so. It's hard to believe that's his sister. What happened to her? They can't all be beauties. Save her a spot in the kennel. Hey, don't be an ass. She's not that bad. She's okay, and she's got a fine body. That's because you're not so hot yourself. You know, you need to take a class on becoming a human being. Okay, I surrender. Put me in prison. Then you should be executed. Although the boys thought otherwise in the cold night air under the stands, they had spoken too loudly. The sound had carried to the girls. There was enough embarrassing pain for several of the girls. Everyone's happy mood vanished. Delilah did the best at hiding her devastation. A memory of a disapproving look from Elijah slipped forward, but she would not cry nor show she had been hurt. Years of enduring Elijah's treatment had hardened her enough to bury the pain. Judy stepped toward the boys. Yolanda grabbed her elbow and quietly said, "It would do no good. It will just deepen the pain. The others will think we pity them." The girls returned to the stands, trying to shove the distress away with cheers. The event would never be forgotten and never discussed. It was the nature of teenagers to be both too easily cruel and too easily hurt, and, for girls, readily compassionate when friends are hurt. Judy, Cindy, and Yolanda worked hard, turning the boys into pariahs. They were very successful, and rumors of the results spread widely. Stay away from comments about Delilah and her friends.